Welcome to another RTV Warriors podcast as we conclude our Amazing Race Season 3 historian coverage. And I'm joined, as ever, by the co-host whose hosting skills are more important than his pants falling down, Michael Harmstone.
Good evening.
And that's not all for today. Joining us to conclude our coverage, we have the second runner-ups from Season 3, Ken for now, and hopefully soon Gerard.
He'll be here.
And we also have a very, very special surprise. We have the winners of the first ever Amazing Race Rank Down on Reddit from a few years ago. We have Nanu's number one team out of the 858 teams to run the Amazing Race internationally from his ranking, and perhaps one of the most iconic reality TV winners ever. We have Flo and Zach.
Hi there.
Hello. Hello.
How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing good. So it's been a long time since you guys ran the race. I believe has it been 19 years since you guys originally ran Season 3?
Yes, I'm still counting, but yes.
Carry the one. So I know you guys don't remember too much about your season now, and that's been all this time later. So I thought we would start with just a really soft question to get things rolling. If there was an auction for an art piece, which would be sold for a higher amount? Would it be the Mona Lisa or Ian's hat? Which would go for higher at an auction?
Flo?
I mean, I haven't thought about Ian, or as he likes to be called, Ian, so long. But I'm gonna go with Ian's hat.
I go with the Mona Lisa.
It could also be Terry's. Didn't they have paper underpants, like disposable paper underpants? Those could go for a very high value, I think.
Used or unused, it all sells well.
It's not that bit of the internet, Logan.
That's a scary thought.
I forgot about the paper underwear. Oh my gosh.
Those were key.
That's a good move.
At least Zach remembers. I'm glad I'm glad at least one of you guys remembered and brought that up. I didn't want to say it. So, do you guys still follow the Amazing Race to this day? All these, two decades later. Flo, I know I believe you're at the starting line for season 30.
No, was that season 30? Oh my gosh. Yes, I went to the starting line because my nieces are huge fans of the show. They're teenagers, and the starting line happened to be in Washington Square Park, which was a couple blocks from my house. And so we went over there, and it was so crazy. And I saw, all of the people that work on the show some of them were still the same, obviously. Anyway, yes. So I followed that season because I thought it was so cool that it started right here.
Do you remember me being with you, Flo? Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. And Kenny was there. Oh my God, I totally forgot. I mean, I didn't forget, but yes, we had a good time. I felt a little bit like a stalker because remember, Kenny, we were trying to take pictures with Bertrand. Anyway, it was a strange day.
It was fun.
Was Zach there too, and also not mentioned as being at the season 30 starting line?
I don't think I was there. I'm pretty sure I wasn't there.
Oh gosh.
Awesome. But all three of you still routinely follow the show to this day?
I don't. I followed like a handful of seasons after our season, and then I kind of couldn't keep up. Of course, still fond of the show, and it's like incredible that this show that we were on way back when is still on TV. But I've stopped watching it.
Ken, how about for you? Do you still follow it?
I do. There was a big bunch in the middle that I didn't get to see. Just going through my own stuff, and but I do follow it. I obviously haven't seen it in a while, but yes, I think I saw the last few seasons definitely.
And Flo, you say that because you have family members that are big fans, is that forced you? You actually mentioned before we were recording that you actually rewatched your own season not too long ago.
I did. My son, who's almost 9, And my nieces got him to watch. They had watched the season and they thought it was so funny. And so they made, during COVID, we were all sort of looking for things to watch, and we watched it together. And it was humbling, to say the least.
Was there a different ending? Was there a different ending?
Yeah, you won in this.
M. Night Shyamalan directed it. Did you also go on to, I think on YouTube, I believe you can still find the interview that you did with Caroline Ray after the finale. I believe someone linked your interview not too long ago somewhere on one of the message boards on Facebook.
Oh God.
That's a classic.
That was it. Yeah, that was a good day, right, Zach?
I remember picking out my outfit for that day. I remember trying to get my hair just in the right position, up high. It was like doing the Marge Simpson kind of do. Yeah, that was a good show for sure.
That's awesome. Anyways, where was I? We got into a whole bunch of different tangents there. Have you guys ever, since I know Flo, you had a call for the original All Stars back with season 11 to return? Have the phone lines rang for any of you guys to come back since then? Unfinished Business or Reality Showdown or All Star 7 or whatever we're on for returning seasons?
We got Gerard and I got asked. They said there's going to be 20 of us, so they sent us the new contracts and what they'll be making, much more than our season. Much more money than our first season, but the All Stars was paying differently, and we signed all the contracts. And after about 2 weeks closest to it, we sent it out, and we got a phone call saying they're not going to use us. And I knew, and Gerard and I were talking about, because we knew Kevin and Drew were definitely going to be on it, because they were probably one of the reasons I watched season 1 so much, that they would be on it, because it's the first season and it was their baby. So I totally get it. But we were sort of upset, but a little relieved, to be honest. We were just a little relieved. We weren't really ready to go physically and mentally.
You don't think you would have done as well as you did the first time?
I never said that, Logan. Not at all.
You would have done better. You would have been able to get a cab outside, as long as you don't have to chase for a taxi outside the Seattle Center.
Correct. Well, first of all, we would beat, obviously, John Vito and Chill, Terry and Ian. Who else was in our season? I guess that was there. No, I'm joking. I have no idea, but we were ready to. We wanted to do it in the head, but we just probably weren't ready. So it was a bit of a relief when they said we're not going 2 weeks before.
Flo and Zach, have you guys ever gotten a call back since then after the original All Stars?
This backstory is pretty interesting. I believe Flo got some calls. I haven't gotten that many calls. I'm still waiting for some kind of Tournament of Champions or an Old Timers edition. But Flo may have more insight on that.
Well, I got a call that first time, but it was to do it with Drew. And I desperately wanted to do it, and he was very opposed to it. So that was the end of it for me. I was actually surprised that they didn't try to come after us, like me and Zach together, because I think that people would have liked to see that again. But yeah, no, Drew didn't want to do it. I think they went out to him another time separately, and he still didn't want to do it. And yeah, it's weird how they've picked those seasons. Actually, and I was very disappointed that Ken and Gerard didn't.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. Yeah, neither of you guys have been, because we've had the Lynn's family who won Family Dish, and they got a call back for season 31, and then we had Eric Sanchez who won the original All Star and was on season 9. That him and Jeremy got a call back for season 31 as well and didn't make it. So we're like, did everyone just get a call for season 31? So it's very surprising they didn't pick you guys.
We went through a run of doing interviews in 2018, I think it was, where everyone said they got a call back, and we didn't pick it deliberately. It was just one of those really weird things where we kept asking, were you invited for 31? And it was like, yeah, actually, I got cut at the last second.
Well, I don't know if that was the one we were asked to do. I don't think, no, it was much earlier. It was like maybe the first one, I guess it was. And just ask the newer ones, did you sign your contract, confidentiality agreements? Tell us how much you were going to get. And then if they don't know the answers, they're just bullshitting you.
More than the first time.
Much more.
We'll give you more than Kodak Easy Share digital cameras. Do you guys still use the Easy Share digital cameras? I know we talked about it briefly before we started recording. Or have you upgraded since then?
I think I have. I'm not kidding. I don't think I think my mother like kept it because she thought it was like such an exciting prize. But I have a lot of it's funny, Zach, I was going through all this stuff and I found like our little notebook that we used to keep notes on during the casting process. Oh my God, I have to show. I'm going to take pictures and show it.
With all of our nicknames for the teams.
Yeah, it's like all of our notes about like things that we wanted to like remember to study up on. It's too good.
Right. I got to see that.
Speaking of which, Flo and Zach, how were you guys cast originally for season 3? Did it involve a VHS tape to send into production?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was either VHS or it might have been like a high 8 tape. But as I remember it, we went to the place where Flo was working at the time, and we went down in like the basement and we shot a video in some like storage room, and it was like a single take. There wasn't a lot of editing that went into it. Of course, nowadays people cut together fancy videos. I'm pretty sure our video was a single take.
Yep.
With us talking about why we wanted to be on the race. And then as I recall, we got into a bit of like a disagreement about why we wanted to be on the race in that video. And that we just hit stop record and sent that in. And I think that they liked that.
Yeah.
That's my memory of it.
No, that's exactly right. That's how I remember it too. And actually, I think like our dynamic or some aspect of it came across on that tape because we didn't touch it. We literally like packed it up and sent it out that night.
And Zach, I don't remember, but do you remember ever writing for a website called Tar Flies back in the day?
I mean, I of course remember Tar Flies. I don't know if I wrote for it.
I think you wrote a column once. I remember this.
Really?
I think you remember that, Kenny. You'll remember this woman who worked on it.
Oh yes, yes, that was Beth Miri. I think. Yes,
Beth.
I remember Beth. I remember Beth or Miri or Beth Miri, but I don't really remember writing for it. But I remember that was the place to be for all tar gossip and information.
Yeah, because there was this article that people still think is real. I've had to tell people over and over again that this article is fake, where it was just a joke article because it was about how Flo gave you almost all of her winnings because of what happened during the season. So people are like, well, she was really generous. She gave up her half of the prize money. It's like, no, that I don't. that actually didn't happen. That'd be like a joke article I might write, but I can assure you that never happened.
Right.
That's really
funny. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that article.
That I don't remember.
The amount of people who believe that myth is startling.
That is crazy.
I know. I read something like that, and it was startling. I just sort of laughed.
Yeah, so 19 years later, I still get comments on my blog where I'm like, no, guys, that did not happen, even almost 20 years later. I'm not sure. I know it's been a long time too. Flo and Zach, do you guys have any fun behind-the-scenes stories that our listeners may want to hear about your experience on the race?
Flo, tell them what you thought of the cast members, like what you thought of Gerard and I, and when we were in the hotel.
Well, this is that we weren't quite sure because you're not allowed to talk, and we were not quite sure the relationship between Ken and Gerard. We thought perhaps they might be partners. It was a strange, you really couldn't tell, and because they were so like jokey and friendly, they were always like laughing and so we were like, who are these guys, like what's their story, and Kenny was totally messing with us. I could tell, he was like sort of enjoying the fact that everyone was checking each other out. So we
couldn't talk.
Wait, what did we used to call them, Zach? I forgot. We had a nickname. Oh, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure that's a name that would survive in this day and age, but it was the Lord of the Rings, Team Lord of the Rings. And then what, John Vito and Jill were like were they Rambo and Rambette or something?
Yeah,
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
I think Ken got credit for that nickname on air, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So with Ken and Gerard, you were wondering whether it was brother or lover.
Correct.
Yes, brother or lover. Yes.
We were both. No, we were just brothers. We still talk like exes, but no, of course, yeah, no, he's the best. He just wrote me an email like, "I am so sorry, Mr. Ken." He always calls me Mr. Ken from the Vietnam thing when I had called the two taxis at the rest, whatever, at the pit stop, and I said, "Let's just get two, because no matter what, the first one's going to grab it." And then Drew and Derek just didn't lie too well, and so that the taxi driver kept saying, "I Ken, you Mr. Ken, you Mr. Ken." And the story behind that is Gerard did most of the stuff, I have to admit. And one day we're laying in bed in Vietnam, in whatever, the top of the mountain in Singapore. And I go to Gerard, "Oh, Gerard, you should do this." He goes, "That was one of our first fights." And he goes, "Do what? I've been doing everything." I'm like, "Gerard, you have not." And so I said, "Just do it, Gerard. You're good. You can speak Spanish or something like that made a difference in Singapore." And he goes, "No." And I go, "All right." He goes, "You need to do it." I'm like, "All right, I'll do it myself." So when I got all this credit for it, I was just cracking up. Like, "Oh, Mr. Ken, I'm sorry. We got Mr. Ken's camp. We can only take Mr. Ken, Mr. Ken." So Gerard always calls me Super Ken. And he was so mad that he didn't call that night, that he got mad at me that, because I called and not him.
Speaking of the different locations, have you guys revisited any of the locations that you went to on the race, or has it just been left 19 years ago and you haven't gone back to any of those cities or countries since then?
I've only been back to one of the locations, which was the Diamante Cay bungalows in Tulum.
In Tulum, yeah.
Tulum, Mexico. We were staying not far from there. My wife and I dragged her over there and was like, "Look, we were here. These are the hammocks. This is the beach."
You just don't have Phil there, or the pit stop Matt, or the greeter in the I don't even know what to call that outfit that the greeter wore, but you just didn't have any of that there.
That's right. But it was cool. It was really cool. I mean, I would love to go back to many of the locations. It's hard to really appreciate these places when you travel through them on the race.
Yeah, and you guys had a longer filming schedule too. I don't think people realize this, but currently how it is now, they film all 12 episodes in 20 days.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow.
and you guys filmed in just over a month for the
29.
13 rounds? 29
Right.
days?
Zach, 29, you think?
I have no idea. I just say a month when people ask, but maybe it was 29 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. It was more generous. They had more money back then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be too big of a fan of having to do all of that in 20 days?
I thought a month was pretty brutal.
I think a month felt, there was barely any. Sometimes the turnaround between a pit stop and after all the interviews, you barely got to sleep. So I don't know how 20 days works.
Yeah.
Zach, I don't mean to jump in here. Well, I guess I kind of do since I have to ask this. Zach, I know you have to go really quick, so I have one more question. Have you ever driven a car again that takes diesel fuel since the race?
Well, that is one of the things that continues to come up in my life. Like when people bring up the race, or when if ever I'm filling up a car, and anyone comments on anything, that's something that has a lasting impact. So I've never made that mistake again. Learned my lesson once. But no, that was a doozy. But we did well getting out of that. A lot of people just folded up and quit. I was impressed with us as a team getting through that one. We just did what most New Yorkers would do, which was find someone else to solve the problem for us.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Remember, that was the only thing people would ask you about. I mean,
Totally.
It's so good.
God, I remember people were saying, "Oh, it's Kenny and Gerard were so smart." I'm like, We weren't smart. We were just ready to put in the regular thing, and the guy happened to say from the booth because it was late. He said, "No, no, 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 diesel, diesel, diesel." So we were just like, oh, "Okay." Didn't even think anything about it until the show, until pit stop when everyone else was talking about it.
So, Flo, so back in your guys' season, flight scrambles were a lot more frequent. Were you guys still able to buy multiple tickets or multiple tickets to get to the same destination back in season 3?
Um, gosh, I might need Kenny to weigh in on that. I don't think so. I think we had to void one if we bought more than one. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, I think I had to void one. Yeah, no, we didn't have like that luxury.
That would have been good, actually. Gosh.
Yeah, because we had, I think, Joe and Bill on, or I think it was, or even with Al. Maybe they brought back the rule for season 4, because I think Al might have said that they bought a lot of tickets for flights, and then production got so pissed off with how much money was being spent that they had to start changing the rules a lot more frequently after that.
Hmm.
And Flo, are you still fluent in Italian, or not fluent, but can you still speak Italian?
Oh yeah, I'm fluent. I mean, it was my first language, so luckily it has not it has not gone away. But yeah, I'm actually heading. I haven't been. My parents live in Italy, and I haven't seen them in almost 2 years now. So I'm heading there next week.
Oh wow. Yeah, actually on the first time I traveled out of the country when I started traveling like crazy was 4 years ago, when I stayed with my I have cousins in southern Italy and Calabria, so I stayed with them for a few days, and only the one cousin, she was about 16, she was the only one who could speak English. Nobody else could speak any English, so it was a very interesting experience to say the least.
Oh, I bet. It's beautiful down there.
Yes, very, very, very beautiful in Calabria, and you get to be away from a lot of the tourists too, compared to Rome or Naples and some of the coastline. So I'm very curious, Flo, because I know in the one of the more iconic moments of the season was telling the guy behind the desk to not let Andre and Damon onto the flight, to not let them tickets. I was wondering if you could use your Italian to tell my listeners to not let me get on the plane either.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I remember.
Is this giving you a kick, Logan?
Yes.
Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Remember, I now I remember exactly where we were. We were in Morocco, right?
Yes.
It's part of that insane flight scramble. It's one of the craziest flight scrambles I think I've seen on The Amazing Race, where everything was full. You guys couldn't find any flights. Andre and Damon are sleeping in an airport. They're sleeping on a train.
Do you know what's so funny that it's not that funny to you, but I just remembered that we were in that Marrakesh airport, um, or wherever. I don't know if it was Marrakesh. Yeah, it
I
was.
think it was. I think it was.
Yeah, and we must have been flying Alitalia, which is why I was speaking to the person in Italian, because at that same counter, I ran into this couple, and they were flying to Italy from there. And I don't even know how it came up, but I said my name, and she said, "Oh, are you related to Roberto by any chance, Pesenti?" And I said, "That's my dad." And she said, "I used to be your dad's assistant." And I said, "Oh my God, can you please?" We didn't have access, obviously, to speak to our families. I said, "Can you please call my dad when you get back to Italy and tell him you ran into me in Marrakesh and I'm doing great?"
I remember you told me that. That was crazy.
Wasn't that great? And then my dad got this message from this woman who used to work for him, and he was so thrilled to hear I'd like made it all the way, however many weeks it had been. So anyway, yes, I speak fluent Italian, and that came in handy that day. You're really bringing me back. I'm getting nostalgic.
That's the goal here when we're talking about something that happened 19 years ago now. Speaking of nostalgia, I'll tell this story really quick, because I don't think you guys are aware of it. But when your guys' season aired, it was the first time I started recording reality TV episodes on VHS tapes, on blank tapes. And your guys' season and Survivor Thailand were airing at the same time, and I was in the 6th grade at the time. And I managed to convince my 6th grade school teacher to show the 4th episode of your guys' season in my 6th grade class. So
What was the fourth? I don't even remember what the fourth episode was.
that was when you guys went to that was the Portugal episode. So that's when Heather and Eve got kicked out. So we had a little worksheet about all the questions, about what we saw in the episode, and that was the only justification for how we got to watch how we got to dedicate 45 minutes of our school day to watch season 3 of The Amazing Race.
Wow. Well, it was very educational, I will say.
It was.
And then, of course, a few years ago, I went to all the locations from that episode for nostalgia's sake. Anyways,
You did?
yeah, I went to, yeah, pretty much. I think the only place I didn't go to was the Kalen Port Lodge from that episode. But I walked around to see if I could find the 3 cafes. And then I happened to get on a train from Porto to Lisbon, and I went to the soccer stadium and I walked to the Torre de Belém.
That was wasn't that awful, Flo? Do you remember we were talking on the train from during that, and everyone happened to be on that train, and there was the school kids were doing the soccer. Flo, correct me if I'm wrong if you remember this. And remember we got stopped on the track or something, and we ended up like some lady committed suicide or walked onto a train. So these little kids had to stay till like I guess it was like 1:30 or something. The parents like we can't stay this late. We can't stay this late. I found this out later, like from production. And so we were just like, that was like just to me one of the most nerve-wracking episodes for me because that was the first time we were all together. We were all on this train, and we knew that somebody was going to get eliminated.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
stressful.
it was very stressful. So
You know what happened to me on that train? The guy, the camera guy who I hated, pulled me aside. And mind you, I was, 22 maybe. And yeah, exactly, 22. And he pulled me aside and he was like, listen, I just want to tell you that when you rewatch this show, you're going to be really upset because you use a lot of bad language.
no.
And I was like, okay, thanks. Like, are you kidding? I was so annoyed and insulted, and then obviously I was embarrassed. And I will never forget, like, I could not stand that guy for the rest of the season. Every time he was assigned to us, I became like irate.
I know which one it was.
You know exactly. Yeah, it was that little
No.
one.
Don't say anymore.
Okay, I won't.
You just turn around and were like, "Fuck that guy."
Yeah, totally, totally.
Why is she speaking in Italian all of a sudden? What is she saying about me?
No, I should have started cursing in Italian instead.
That was actually one of my questions was, did you guys have any bad experiences with the camera or sound production guy? Because there's always one duo that nobody wants to be paired with for the episode, but I'm guessing no other experiences. That's the main experience right there.
Ken, you have anything? I feel like there was another issue with one of the guys.
I don't remember. I do remember our favorite ones, and I can't remember his name now. I'm so mad. We thought we had them for the very last leg of the not the the last whatever 20 minutes of the race on thing, and then they keep changing it towards the end. They didn't want people to have the same cameraman, and we were so upset because in the end we didn't get who we wanted to have, which was the other guys. And I'm sorry, the name's escaping me now.
You know what? It was Zach was always concerned because there was a couple of guys who were just not that fast. They were just bigger guys, older guys. And so he was always like hoping for the younger, more sprightly guys because, they could keep up better. So yeah, that was always a thing.
Yeah, I know in the earlier seasons, yeah, we've had other guests on that said, yeah, there was this one duo that we just absolutely dreaded being paired with for legs. It's like, well, you're going to finish further behind than usual.
Right.
But
right.
but it's good to know that now that everyone who gets assigned the duos, it sounds like they're all almost equally fit or within. They're all comparative to each other nowadays, which is a good rule change, it seems.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, speaking of the camera operator pulling you aside, Flo, and saying, "Hey, you use too much bad language on TV." Did you get a sense of how viewers were going to react once the episodes all aired?
I didn't get a sense of it right away. It sort of like started to as the group thinned out and there was more and more coverage of me, then I would say probably like episode 3 or 4. Yeah, I got a sense of what was going to be portrayed, and how I had totally blocked out sort of the whole thing because once you win, you're like, okay, whatever, like this is great. So yeah, I got a sense of it, halfway maybe through. But I definitely, yeah, it totally took me by surprise in a lot of ways.
One thing I want to commend Zach, and especially actually all of you guys, really, is that when you were getting all of these the
Trolls.
internet and the fan base, trolls, I'm really glad that you guys were very supportive of Flo throughout that process, because I think that makes a huge difference. If it's like, hey, leave Flo alone, Flo is awesome, why are you doing this? So it's always great to see a cast be really supportive that way.
Well, also, Flo was one of the first people, Flo and Zach. I remember Jordan and I took an Ambien because we were able to I was able to bring it on because of another story. So you can only bring a certain amount of drugs. So we fell asleep on this long 24-hour bus ride in Mexico. And we woke up, and then, she just we haven't really talked to the teams. Like we didn't really, right, Flo? We weren't really talking too much in that bus quite yet because it was new. And Flo was the very first person, Flo and Zach were the very first people to come up to us, Gerard and I, and she goes, "Hi, I'm Flo." And I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you, Flo." And then we found out that we actually had a friend in common, Jamie Grill, and I worked for the father for Jamie. It was her best friend, right? Right?
Yep.
And it was like her best friend, and I worked for her father at the time. I was casting for her father, and it was just such a small world. And so from that moment on, I just knew that this would be a great team to hang with. They were really a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, I think, as it relates to being supportive, look, Zach could have gone either way and he deserved to do whatever. Because it was a tough situation to be in, but Kenny was always my number one cheerleader. He was like, "Don't listen to these people. Who cares? You're the best." He was always sticking up for me with all these freaks who, like took time out of their day to write terrible things about me. And I really couldn't have made it through without Kenny and without Zach. Like I was, it got to a point towards the end where I got super, bummed out. I felt like I wasn't able to enjoy the experience of watching the show, or I wasn't able to enjoy winning the show. And I don't want anyone to feel bad for me. Like brought it all on myself, but I definitely, it was so great to have castmates that were so loving towards me.
I think it would have been a completely different situation had it aired now. I'm not sure you would have necessarily had as supportive a cast as you did then now, because they veered more competitive, I think. And I think people would be a lot more cutthroat now. Not necessarily the guys actually in your cast, but I think if they were casting it nowadays, you would probably see a lot less support from a cast, and you would see a lot worse people on Twitter.
Yeah, well, I think social media is totally different now, right? Like we were like looking on these weird, like, whatever they were, threads. Now with Twitter, it would be a totally different story. So I'm very thankful that we did this at the beginning of reality television and at the beginning of social media, because I wouldn't be able to escape it as easily.
I didn't even know that these websites existed. Like people followed shows. Like I just never heard of that. So all of a sudden, someone said, "Oh, go on to here." Someone sent a link. I'm like, "Oh my God, people are talking about this. The show hasn't even started yet." And I just remember a lot of people not liking us. In the very beginning, before we were even introduced, it was just like from a coming attraction or something. So, and then Flo and I spoke a lot during that time, and Gerard and I, and it was brutal. It was brutal, especially when no one knows anyone. We haven't even started yet, and there was one or two threads I remember that were just pretty awful, and they wanted us dead, and how they're going to do it, how they're going to get us to kill us, and we were just like, what? So I can only imagine that Flo was getting some of that too.
Some.
I was being nice.
Just a little bit.
Do you know what? This is like my therapy session now. I still get like every like couple of weeks psychotic messages from people on Facebook, like direct messages that I have to block, that are like really, really vicious, and violent and aggressive. And I just can't believe that people care, and B, are taking the time to harass me, and C, that they're like starting over by watching such early seasons.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that, watching the early seasons.
I've told this story a few times on the podcast, but I did a quiz show in the UK in 2018 called The Chase, which does now have an American version on ABC. And the amount of trolling I got in the 10 minutes that I was on that episode was ridiculous. Even though I did pretty well on it, like the amount of people who were bitching about me for where I'm from, what I was wearing, the woman after me's eyebrows got trolled, the woman after her got trolled for taking a lower offer on the actual show, and like proper vicious stuff. And I just don't understand what goes through people's heads.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, Flo, you did good. She survived it. I mean, it was a lot of, because I watch the seasons now. Flo is really nothing compared to some of these people now who are just mean. Not everybody, of course. There's a couple like in each episode. You're like, wow, that's just not nice. That's almost worse than everything. That's worse than everything else. That's who they are. So I don't know.
I think it was very interesting that Brooke in 29 got so many comparisons to Flo, because we love Brooke. We make no secret of the fact we love her.
Longest interview ever. 4.5 hours.
And I spent the entire day with her and Scott when they came to London right after their season. And I think a lot of the complaints that were about Brooke at the time would have probably been the sort of stuff that Flo would have got, and it was horrible to see as her friend.
Yeah.
And just to add one quick note on that, yesterday when I was checking, there was 6 new comments on my blog, and all 6 comments were over a 3-hour period. Michael doesn't even know this yet. Was over a 3-hour period from the same person on the article that I wrote about Flo. Because they're like, "No, you're wrong. Flo is this," and it's like, okay, you wrote 6 different comments over a 3-hour period. I have not gone online to approve them, and like, I don't think I'm going to approve the comments at this point because this is a little bit extreme.
What did they say,
Yeah.
Flo? You send us a link. I want to read about Flo.
Yeah, send me the link. I want to see.
If it's good, it's all good.
We need the screenshots.
We need this. Oh, from the guy. Oh, I don't know. If those comments had aired, I think that same camera operator from the Portugal train would be pulling that guy aside and said, "Hey, just a heads up, too much swearing. We're not going to be able to use this footage on the blog."
Okay, I got it.
It's like, are you kidding me? I was 11 when this season aired. I turn 30 next month.
Crazy.
We're still dealing with this. So I don't know if you guys know this, but one of your castmates, Andrew, was on Naked and Afraid. The question to you guys, of course, too bad Zach isn't here for it, considering he had a lot of commentary about the paper underwear, but would you guys ever go on Naked and Afraid?
They would be afraid if I were naked. Trust me.
Well, it is Naked and Afraid. It didn't indicate who would be afraid.
I would never do that. No, I couldn't. I love Andrew, and in fact, I haven't seen it's on my DVR, so I have to watch it. And Flo, we should watch that together.
Yeah, let's watch it together. Let's make that our next meetup.
All right, sounds good. I'll do that.
I did not know he was on that. It's funny. He reached out to me the other day on Instagram, and we went back and forth a little bit. He's so sweet, but
Yeah.
he's got a really good body. That guy.
And he's tall. He's taller than I thought.
He's so fit. He was like he was a cheerleader. So.
Yeah, but you said Ken was your number one cheerleader, and you actually had an actual professional cheerleader who you did not say was your number one cheerleader in the cast.
Well, that because the actual cheerleader got eliminated too early to become a cheerleader.
Bye, everybody. We were so happy every time there was an elimination, and when we found it was a non-elimination, we were, like, oh shoot, we gotta do it again,
Oh my God. Yeah, I was so happy when they started to clear out all the weak teams.
All the weak teams. You had Gene and Sylvia. Fear no man, be terrified of soccer mom was their catchphrase.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, they were so sweet, those two.
They were sweet.
I mean, we talked to them for one day, but they were nice.
They were very nice. They gave us their towel, like they had a little dry towel that they gave it to us and said, "Oh, here, use this," because we didn't bring a towel, and so they had a little one that dries in like 10 minutes or something. So, oh, thank you. What's your name again? Oh, yes, Sylvia. Yeah.
See, it starts with a G.
No, I know who they are. I actually thought they were lovely, and I've spoken to them recently. One of them recently, so that was good. It was a fun team. They were nice.
I'll very quickly run through the Flo. Do you still? How much more time do you have, Flo?
I got a couple. I have like 5 more minutes, but then I've got to go.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Do you think you guys, Flo? Do you think it was easier to do the self? Because there's a big debate as to whether teams should do more self-drive legs or just take taxis. What was easier for you, Flo? Was it the self-drive legs or the taxis with Zach?
So you might not know this, or maybe you do know this, that I never drove once on the show. I got my license like 3 days before we left for the Amazing Race in Zach's dad's car, and I never drove that on that show, and I didn't drive for about 5 years after that. So,
I didn't know that.
for me, yes, it's I just recently started driving more actively. I hate driving.
You can drive me around because I don't even have my driver's license yet.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So you understand me.
Absolutely.
I hate driving. So to answer your question, I liked any option of not driving. So whether that was Zach or taxi, Zach actually is a great driver, but I'm a terrible navigator, so I preferred taxis.
So he had to do the navigating and the driving.
Yeah, basically he had to do everything. Doesn't everybody know that?
And that's why he deserves 90% of the prize.
That's what he got. That's what he got, right?
I'm gonna write him a check tonight.
Well, you have to account for inflation now.
Yes, it's true.
Why, Flo? Why was there an obsession with getting rid of Derek and Drew at the start of the reason? Why was there a twin hunt alliance? And where did that alliance go wrong?
I mean, Kenny knows. We just wanted to get rid of anyone who looked more fit than the rest of us. And then we were like, wait, we like these guys. And that, I mean, the alliance probably went wrong because we started to like them. And I started to really like them, as we all know. And I was like, wait, I can't have these guys leave. This, this is my like sanity and now my boyfriend. So I let my feelings get in the way.
But your feelings didn't get in the way, because in the final four, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Ken and Gerard were told where they had to get the cyclo, the Vietnamese bicycle.
That was, of course, one of
Yeah.
our favorite episodes, of course.
I forgot what happened with that, Kenny. How did that happen?
I remember this. Like I jumped onto the boat and it was your boat and I didn't even know she was on it. It's like, she goes, "Get off my boat." And they were like, well, what's going on? Where is it? And we asked them where it was, where can we get these cycles? And she said, her and Zach were great. You go up here and just follow all the flags. It's all the way. It's like a mile over to the left there. So I'm like, okay. And then that's when Drew and Derek, asked us, and they said, "Was Flo on that boat?" And I think I said no, right? I think
you lied. Yeah,
I totally lied. Yeah, it was a good lie, though, wasn't it? A good one. Thank you very much.
Well, somebody had to get them out at that point.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know. We couldn't have beat them at the end. Like that whole Seattle thing. Like, I don't know that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think by that point, we had to get rid of
And they
them.
had a groove going. They definitely had a groove going from the very beginning, but they really ended up doing really, really well. So
Drew won in the end, just not the money. The
girls. Really?
Who won 90% of the prize there?
Exactly.
Drew did.
Exactly.
Good answer, Kenny.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, Flo, is there anything you want to tell our listeners before you have to go?
I want to thank you guys for having us. This was so fun, and it's always so good to reconnect. And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk to Gerard, but we will all get together, I hope, soon. And I'm so always flattered that people are still watching our season and enjoying it. And so thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I think people's jaws are going to drop when they find out that we got you on this podcast.
Well, I would have only done it for Kenny. That's if anyone else had asked, I would have said I was busy, but I do anything for Kenny.
Oh, she's so sweet.
So, how about Ken? Do you still? I know clearly you still keep in contact with Flo and Zach a little bit. Do you keep in contact with any of the other teams? I know we briefly discussed this before we recorded.
Yes, I definitely keep in touch with Al. Al came in a couple times and we hung around the city and whatnot. I think we went and saw a show. I saw him camping once. We just happened to be. He posted it on Facebook. We met at camping and we're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" So we sort of hung. That was nice. And let's see. I haven't talked to Zach in a long time. Terry and Ian, I saw them a couple times after the show. They came in and that was sort of fun. And Jill and John Vito, Jill, Flo and Zach, me and Gerard and myself, we would all sort of watch the shows together every, whatever it was, Wednesday night, and it was either Flo's house, Zach's house, Jill's house, or I think John Vito's house. So it really was a fun little group that we had towards the end because we all lived in New York City. That's really the only reason. But it was I was blessed that that we were able to do that. That was really a ton of fun.
Did you go to the TarCons? I know those used to be a thing in New York City. They stopped doing that 5 years ago.
Yes, I went, and it was actually shocking to me because I didn't realize I didn't realize this was going to be like these full-fledged fans, and then just meeting some really fabulous people. I can name quite a few who just became good friends now, and so we talk all the time. I see them every time they come in to the city, and so it was just a lot of fun.
So you, Flo and Zach, are you all still based in New York City?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And John Vito is too. John Vito is too. He got married recently. We all went to dinner about maybe 4 years ago. It was John Vito. He had just got married, I think, or it was just yeah, he just got married.
Not to Jill, just to be clear for our
No, not to
listeners.
Jill. Not to Jill. She's lovely. I saw her once, like just she was jogging in the park, and I'm of course like eating an ice cream in the park, whatever. And she goes jogging by me, and I'm like, that her. And then we stopped and spoke. She's always been lovely. She would have the best parties, like inviting everyone in, and so was John Vito was just like loving it too. We just all got together, so which was a lot of fun.
And let's see, what are the other teams? I'm guessing Derek and Drew, probably, especially Drew, I guess, probably would have been at some of those gatherings at the beginning.
I believe he was. I can't remember if I don't think they were living together at that point. I don't know. That was she was on. I remember him a couple times, and I remember seeing him a couple times after we went to maybe it was Tarcon again, and he was there or something. But I
Are you sure it wasn't Derek?
I don't think they looked alike. I mean, I really didn't. We just knew from the very beginning that they were twins. But I mean, they looked alike, of course. But yeah, I just didn't. To us, it was just two different people.
It was tougher to tell for viewers because this was before high definition TV.
Yeah, I watch it now and I'm like, ooh, that looks old.
Let's see, who are the other teams? Andre and Damon.
None. I wish. I wonder how they're doing.
Okay. Aaron and Ariane.
I saw Aaron at some gay club camps. I remember once, and he came up to me. I'm like, oh my god! And we ended up chatting for a long time. I remember he had us over, or he had me over, or something for a show or something. And he invited me. He opened up his house. He had just gotten this new apartment on 42nd Street, and I think he's still there. It's like one of these beautiful high rises. So, and Ariane, no, I don't remember seeing her too much. Sylvia came into town. I couldn't meet her the last minute.
And I think Michael and Kathy.
They're lovely. They really were a lot of fun. Michael was very droll, and Kathy was just terrific. And we kept in touch a lot online. And I think I owe them a phone call or something. And I would love to see them. They have some nice kids and whatever. So that was good.
And yeah, people tend to forget you guys had a 12-team season.
Yes.
It was a bigger and there wasn't any random starting line eliminations or get eliminated halfway through the first leg.
Mhm.
It was truly 12 teams. Heather and Eve, any contact with them?
It's funny. No, I'm not. But about I don't know, 12 years ago, we had dinner. I was having dinner with my friends, and they were there, and just the two of them. They hadn't seen each other, and we were just totally catching up. They also live in New York City too. And yeah, I just don't see them on. I know that Eve wrote a book, and she's got very successful with the book, and
Oh wow.
we sort of rekindled again. It's about being a mom and taking control, and it was just a really uplifting book. And yeah, and Heather, I know that she got married, and she I don't know what's going on now. I just spoke to her that last was then. I don't think she's on Facebook either, so that's really all I know of them.
So Eve is more successful with writing this book than she was with the stick shift on The Amazing Race?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I mean, it really got a lot of press. It was really a good book. Yeah, it was just very empowering, especially, being a mom, being a female. And I think it was just, I read a lot of the cliff notes because I don't read as much anymore, but I do want to get the sound of it, when you get the audio books. So, yeah, so I did get to see her a couple times, which was nice, but it was all pretty much unexpected.
And then I think the only team that hasn't come up, surprisingly, is Tremel and Talisha. Any update on them?
Um, Talisha came into the city. We went to final or something, I remember, and we met for breakfast. She's got very famous doing, what was she doing? She was writing one of the major shows back then. I can't remember. She was one of the writers, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, I can't remember. I'm so sorry, but so we were just really catching up, and she did really well after this. She's a writer, and then she was writing for. I remember saying, "Oh, that's one of my favorite shows," and of course, I can't remember what it is now. But yeah, so if you can look her up, she's done very well for herself, and I don't know about Tramel. He was just always the guy next to her, and she was just very friendly. They were brother and sister, so we sort of had a little bit of a bond in the beginning with them, Gerard and I, in Mexico, because we siblings and stuff.
Did you anticipate? I know this is getting a bit more in specifics. I'm not too sure if you'd remembered, but did you anticipate just how many alliances you would have during the season? Did you plan on aligning with so many teams while on the race?
No, nope. The reason no, I didn't. We didn't really think like that. We were just sort of running the race for ourselves. Like we didn't think about everyone else. And I remember in Tulum, somebody came up to me. I know exactly who it was, and said, "You need to get really, really catty and bitchy." He said, "You need to get rid of the twins." And we're like, "Okay, okay." Like, and they and like he sort of came at us like, "You don't understand. They're going to beat you at the end," and blah blah blah. Wasn't very nice. And I was like, I went straight to the twins, and I just said, Gerard and I both did, and he said, "They want you out. They're trying to get you. Let's us have our alliance." And it ended up being obviously a very good alliance for us for a long amount of time. So I just remember the reason we did that was because we didn't want to be that group. We wanted to go. They're all against them. No, we didn't think they were. We didn't think they were a competition at that time. It was just too early. It's like, don't start splitting up. And when I started seeing that on the first episode, the first get rid of the twins episode. Well, I guess that was second episode.
It's a
Second.
twin hunt.
It's a twin hunt. Yes, that's right. I was just like, that's what we felt. We never said it out loud though. And I just remember saying, and we said, we would do our own thing. We could help each other out when we can. And of course, when it's a roadblock or, a detour, we're on your own and, just do it. And we ended up having a sort of a great time with them. It was really good to know them. And it worked for us, obviously.
And that was the point when Phil Kogan turned against you guys and tried to get the twins out.
Oh, was it Phil? No. Total. Oh my God, I just got that now. No, it definitely wasn't him. Phil was like probably the most neutral guy, and he knew just like I love show tunes and stuff. So he would always like when we would check in, he would say, he would like tell me about a show tune or something, and I would sort of sing it to him. I can't really remember, but he was incredibly nice to us. And I do remember that after the games, the Scottish games. It was a long run to get to the castle, which Gerard has visited since then. It was seriously one of the most beautiful places I've been to. And we were running, and I was so, people were there, and we were going to check in, and we didn't know like there could have been another exit or entrance to this place. We didn't know. So I finished it, and I just remember Gerard and I had said I said to Gerard, I said, "Gerard, I get sick if I'm nervous," or so, because I lived with him for a year when he was in college, and then I was like, I get sick. My stomach just vomits. So don't worry about it. I'm not sick. I was just nauseous, and I vomited quite a few times during the race. And I remember getting into that thing and we're talking to Phil. We just checked in, so happy. And then I'm like, "Phil, I gotta go." He's like, "What?" And he's like, "He's gotta throw up." So I literally went to the side and I threw up because I was just so like, we got there, we made it. Number one, I did the Scottish games, which was great. Like, meaning I was so scared to do everything. We were both very scared, and who should do it next? We don't know what it's about. We didn't get a lot about what was really going on in the clues that back then. That's all. You should like games or something. They would say. They wouldn't get really specific, as I heard some of them do now, but I don't know that.
So you vomited right near Phil at the pit stop?
No, it was around a row of bushes, actually. It wasn't even, and then a cameraman started to come around, and I just turned my head and pretended, oh, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine.
And that didn't get made into a show tune? I just threw up in the bushes on The Amazing Race.
It should have. Yeah, no, it was pretty. And then at the very end in Hawaii, I remember it happened again. I was just, we had parked so far away from where the zip lining was, and we didn't know that. We were outside these gates, and we parked there. We were the first ones there, and then all of a sudden we're running for 2 miles, and we're like, "Where is this freaking falls?" Because we didn't know that we could drive past this gate to this farm, whatever it was, and I remember all of a sudden we see, them all just drive up to like where we're. I'm like, shit, now we have to go all the way back. And we knew that at that point we still have another, at least a 25-minute dash to get to our car. So that really sucked for us. So I was vomiting a lot in the fields of Hawaii.
That's great training for the Hawaiian Ironman. You should have entered that into that the following year. Like, well, I parked so far away from a zip line. Let's just take it to that next level.
I should have. You're absolutely right. My brother did that. Not Gerard. We laughed. Not my brother Glenn did that, and he did it. 2 of them in 1 month. He did it. So it was pretty amazing. Not us. We watched him.
Actually, that's interesting. You bring that up because we interviewed Meg and Linz of the Linz family, where four of the 6 Linz siblings were on. So how was Gerard the sibling that you ran the race with?
Good question. My brother Glenn, I remember hearing about this race. Someone at volleyball said you have to watch the show, and I remember watching another show. I think it was called Lost or something, and it premiered the same night as The Amazing Race.
Yes, the NBC show that lasted 3 episodes.
Correct, and that was the one I watched. So I didn't see it at all. And then I remember going to volleyball sort of the next day or something, or maybe it was even I don't know. And somebody coming up to me goes, "You have got to see this show called The Amazing Race." I'm like, "Well, what's it about?" And he's like, "Watch it. I think it was on a totally different network, if I remember, during our season. But I think it was on Channel 9 or something. So, and they re-aired it on a different station. So I watched it like that Friday night, and I'm like, oh my God. And I just remember that zip line that they had to do across that valley, whatever. I can't remember. And it was so...
when they did the gorge, when they had to do the free swing across the gorge.
Exactly. That's how, I remember it very well. And I just remember looking at it like, oh my God. And then I'm like, after watching that season, we watched the whole season, of course, loved it. And I'm like, I wonder if we could do something like that, if I could do that. So I said, who can I do it with? I was actually a casting director at the time. So I was like, who can I do it? Which brother? So I go to Gerard. I had lived with Gerard for a year when he was going to grad school. And he spoke Spanish. So my other brother, Glenn, who was a survivor, who didn't make Survivor, so he said, Ixnay, he said, I'm never going to watch it. He never watched an episode. But I was like, who should I ask, Gerard or Glenn? And I just knew that Gerard spoke another language, and I lived with them. But I remember I felt bad for Glenn because he really wanted to go. He was really excited and our fan. So anyway, so I was just remembering that's probably that. Yeah, that was the reason I asked Gerard, and Gerard's like, okay. And I remember Jen, his wife, I called them and I said, before we did this video, and I said, I'm going to mail this in now. Are you sure you're okay with him leaving for a month at least? And she goes, why would I care about that? Of course. He goes, you guys are never going to make it. So why would I care? You're not going to make it. So she honestly thought that because there were like so many people trying out at that point. They had a lot of applications. So I was like, okay, great. And then when we got it, I think she was like, holy crap, like he just had twins. I think they were 2 years old at the time. And it was difficult for him once or twice. I remember it was difficult.
And what was that casting process like for you?
Well, I was awful in the first one. Gerard was just nailed it. I was so nervous. I'm telling him everything he would do because of course I feel like I knew everything because I was a cast director. I know what they're looking for and what we are. And all of a sudden, I get there and I'm like so nervous. I barely say anything. And Gerard was just killing it. So he totally got us the first. What do you call it? The summer finals, and like we immediately went to LA after that to to stay there for, I think it was 14 days. So I guess we went from like 24 teams down to 12. So there were 24 teams every day that we were watching in this restaurant in a hotel, and we weren't allowed to speak to them, nothing like that. And I remember Terry and Ian, we wanted to speak to everybody. We wanted to talk, but we couldn't give eye contact. There was somebody there watching us, or they made us believe there was. And I remember getting some soup or something out of this thing, and she was going right next to me with the soup. And I said, "You're going down." And she goes, "You're going down." And that was it. We just sort of, we enjoyed them very much. We just had a really good time in the hotel with Terry and Ian, because they were also the room across from us. And we were just sort of throwing things at their glass. They had a glass at the front door. So we were like, and all of a sudden somebody whipped me, it was Gerard, whipped this wet napkin, all across the hall right into it. And one of the production showed up, and they were like, "You can't do that. You can't do that." I'm like, "Okay, sorry." So we thought we were going to be kicked out. They're going to pick one of the other 24 people, not us, blah, blah, blah.
Did you recognize any of because there were 12 teams that weren't picked. Did you recognize any of the other 12 teams from a future season?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. The one who ended up winning season 4, Kelly.
Oh, Ken and Chip?
The redhead, Millie and the redhead. Kelly and
Kelly and John.
Kelly and John, yes.
They were runner-ups in season 4. Yeah, they never came back, actually.
They never did. Yes, I was getting them confused with Colin and Christy, of course. But they were actually on our season. They were in the room right next to us. They couldn't have been more lovelier to us. I mean, we're not allowed to talk. We'd sort of knock on the wall, and they were just incredibly sweet. And we found out, I was just shocked that they didn't get on. She was gorgeous, and he was a good-looking guy too. I'm like, they're going to get us. They'll find blah blah blah. And we were, quite upset that they weren't, because we got a little bit of an alliance, no talking alliance, if you want to call it that, a little bit of a acquaintance with them, and Terry and Ian. So I was upset that Kelly wasn't on it, and John. So, but they did very well.
Production had to split you guys up.
No, they didn't. They just told us to stop throwing things and littering the hotel, I think.
Let's see. Speaking of which, were you aware that Colin and Christy came back and won a season?
Yes, I was. I was their biggest fan. I had met him at one of the parties. They were season 4, correct?
Season 5.
Season 5, okay. I went to that party, and I met them there, and he pulled me aside and he goes, "Kenny, I totally stole something from you." I'm like, "What did you steal?" He said, "You said in one of your interviews that you were on Ambien," and I had gotten it once. It was like right around 9/11. I'm sort of a mile away, and I had gotten that as sort of a backup within the last year. We had to show that we were taking something, so I just threw that on there, not even thinking I could use it, because I only had used it like once or twice when I had it, so they were very old. And he said, so we totally immediately went to my doctor and said, "Put this on our thing." I think even before he got picked or something, or was towards the end, I don't know, but he was very nice, and it was nothing like what I saw when I was there. It was I think it was in Florida. There was a big Snapple get together or something, peach iced tea.
Was it the 10-year reunion?
Pretty much, yeah. It was sponsored by, I think, Snapple,
So
and they were there.
That means you were the drug hookup for Colin.
Correct, absolutely. Well, he certainly didn't. He didn't need it in this last winning season for those guys. I mean, they just really kicked ass. It was really fun watching them. It was really fun watching. I liked them from the beginning, and I just thought he was hysterical. Colin was hysterical, that whole Ox thing and all that stuff. It was just great. I was really happy to meet him.
So there was something you said earlier, Ken, that was interesting, and it was actually aired on TV in the episodes too, about how if you were in Alliance, everyone was on their own for detours and roadblocks. So why not work together on detours and roadblocks? Just out of curiosity.
Again, we didn't really know them. I mean, we just met there, and we didn't know if we can really trust each other. It wasn't an official alliance. I mean, I guess it was, because we originally said, they're after you. We want to go with you, and we talked about it. And Gerard sort of negotiated it with those guys, and we didn't know them, so it's like we're not going to trust these people who don't even know. And obviously, they didn't do too well the first episode, and neither did we. So it was just one of those things we didn't know. So it just sort of evolved really very It's not like it is now. If I saw something recently, like everyone was giving me answers, I'm just like, what is that going on?
That was my tie-in, yeah, because season 32 is the most recent season to air, and it sounds like there's going to be real changes because there was an alliance of five established on day one, and they worked on every single task together, every detour and roadblock, and then once it got
Wow.
down to the final five, a final three formed within that final five, and then they worked on every single task together, and then the
Mm,
finale, the winning team won by over an hour.
wow. Yeah, we didn't do that.
Would that just not seem like that appealing to you if it's just build this massive alliance, everyone work together on every task?
I'm not saying if someone didn't give me a clue, I wouldn't take it. Like, oh, do this.
If it's like find the clue for the cyclo.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say no, but I don't know if we would do it again. There were a couple times Gerard yelled at me because I gave out too much information. So not mean, but why did you say that? I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because you guys worked with Flo and Zach, I think, on the Singapore detour with finding the Singaporean TV star's apartment. What's his name?
Oh
Bola
yes,
Chu Kang.
yes. And I remember Flo and Zach came. We had just finished in the desert. They drove. We started looking for the something was hidden in the sand, and then we had changed detours. I think like the fifth time or something, and we got on these the bikes, the what do you call it, like little trailers, whatever, and we were racing around, and then Flo, we right when we came out of the maze, I guess it was like a maze almost. Flo said, "Oh my God, you're on that. Which one should we take? Which one should we take?" And this is where I said, Flo, do not do the digging in the thing. I said that was awful because we had been there for like at least an hour and it was so hot we couldn't find a thing. So then we switched, and I think every time we switched, we did pretty well when we did it. We were sort of focused.
So the digging, that's the task in Morocco with digging in the sand.
Correct. We were the only
Now
team
you see
that
me,
did
now you
that.
don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was that was awful. That was really difficult. And we're like, no, we can't do that. And we're like, we can't change it again. We can't. We keep doing this. I'm like, we're not. It was. I remember even whose idea it was, but it was just. It was terrible. So I told Flo that, of course, and why do you tell her that? So
Because we think we can beat her in the finale.
I never said that.
Little did you know.
Little did I know. Yeah, that was pretty upsetting. But
And I don't think you're aware of this, but I believe I don't even know if I would call it alliance or forced alliance. I think Andre and Damon offering you money to follow you around for that leg in Morocco. I think it's the only time that a team paid another team to align with them to go around.
we needed money. we during the second episode of the race, we were doing in Mexico on the boats and um, I don't know, the kayaks and something else, or the scooters, whatever. And all of a sudden, we came back and our bag was gone. We had two bags. We had one bag, our regular bag, and we had a bag of all our necessities. It had my Ambien, it had our raincoats, we had our alarm clocks in there. We had everything in there, and we got back to there, and it was stolen. It was gone. It was just gone. And granted, we went back like 2 hours. I just assumed production would be there or something. Somebody would pick it up. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't even think about it. But then we got back and it was gone, and we were like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" So we ended up having to go to buy myself a jacket because I didn't have a jacket, and buy a little alarm clock and something else. So we spent a lot of the money. So immediately, right after that, we went into our emergency money, which was I think $200 that we got from the sound man or somebody.
Oh, so you got to use the emergency fund?
Yes, everyone was allowed to use it at one point. They're allowed to use it, at any point they want, but they're not getting any more than that. It's like for an emergency. And to us, this was an emergency. We're going to use it. So we did. So we didn't have any money. So Gerard actually was brilliant enough to say, sure, you can follow us if you give us some money.
How much money was the emergency fund?
It was 200, if I remember correctly. I think it was 200.
It's funny because now because in Canada we've had our own domestic version of Amazing Race, and just when they open the clue, it's like, oh, here you go. Here's like $2,000 for this leg. Here's $3,000 for this leg, and even in the American version, it's been a very long time since anybody's run out of money while running the race.
Yeah, we were there in the second episode pretty much. We really were. It was awful.
I can only think of one other team paying another team, and that's in All Stars.
Yeah, that's different with the yield. Yeah, with Oswald and Danny, Dustin and Candace. Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, how was you got to swim in the river there in England? How was that swim and the punt boats?
That was our first fight. You didn't see it because he pushed me in and I was so pissed. I was so pissed right then. I was laughing the whole way, and then all of a sudden, like he just pushed me in, and I was so like, because I knew that we have like a 15-hour. We knew that we were going to get on a bus or something. So I was so pissed that we were both sopping wet, and the guy got mad at us. He said, the sound man said, you ruined one of the microphones, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I got pushed, so you can blame Gerard. And so then they said, you got to be careful with that stuff. But, I don't know if he was a veteran or not. He just said, you got to be careful. And so we got new ones. And then we're walking to the bus where we see Derek and Drew sunning before we get on our bus ride. And
the bronze gods.
The bronze gods. And we see them sunning. And like right before that, I'm like, Gerard, we can't, I think we had another hour wait or an hour and a half. I'm like, we have to find a laundromat to dry this stuff. I don't have anything, whatnot. So that was our first fight. So I just turned off my microphone and I gave it to him, and then he gave it to me. And Gerard was I was a little more stressed than Gerard was, to be honest. But Gerard was pretty level-headed, and that was our first fight. And then they go, you have to turn your microphone on. You just ruined our one microphone. You got to turn this one on. So I'm like, okay.
And how were you frustrated at all by the amount of equalizers they had, especially towards the end of the season, where you'd get through like 3/4 of the leg, and then right before the end, boom, everyone is bunched up together again? Because they don't really do that nowadays. Now it's very rigid, where everyone's on the same plane, everyone starts the leg at the same time, and then everyone takes 6 to 8 hours to get to the pit stop in the same city.
Yeah. Again, Gerard and I really weren't thinking about that. We weren't thinking so much about we were thinking about the race, but we didn't really, it wasn't a big deal. It was just the game. Whatever came up, we had to do, like we couldn't even, we were also an older team, and we just had to do it. We didn't even really think about it, to be honest. Or I didn't, certainly not. And I don't think Gerard did either. We were just, oh, everyone's together. I didn't think yay or nay about it. I didn't really care because we were just running our race.
Yeah, it's just something that it's just part of the game at that point. There's not real. There wasn't like a discussion of of race etiquette or how production should do things.
Exactly, and especially when Eve and what's her name were the lawyers were eliminated. We were thrilled because we got first place then, and we're like, oh, there's going to be a prize. It's going to be another big camera.
We get another Kodak Easy Share digital camera, one for Glenn.
Exactly, and there was none. There was no camera there. We didn't even get a prize, and we're like, what?
Yeah, I think they skipped. I was looking it up. I think it skipped from leg one there as a prize. I guess you guys would have won that since you got the fast forward in the first leg.
Yes.
Did you get to go on the cruise?
Yes, I ended up taking one of my best friends, Peggy McGurk, and she was like thrilled because we could. It was for two of us. The last person I want to go on vacation is with my brother, and same with him. He would not want to go with me. So he was going at the time, and he had been away from his wife for so long. He was like, so just take it. So he gave it to us. So I just invited her, and it was just such a great cruise. It really was a ton of fun. And someone kept stealing our pictures. Like, I guess they were a fan of the race. And finally, at the very end, they go, oh, I'm sorry, we were stealing your pictures. In a cruise, they sort of take a whole bunch of pictures of wherever you're at. And I had no idea, I knew that they were taking our picture, but it was just because they take everyone's picture. It's like Disney World, and hopefully they'll buy it at the end. No one knew where we were from or anything like that. And somebody kept taking our picture. And at the end, these two people came up to goes, oh, we're so sorry, but we took all your pictures here. There, we feel bad. We've been following you the whole time. And I didn't even recognize it. He goes, we knew that you were on the race. And I just really thought, pathetic. It's just me and my friend who beat cancer,
Welcome to the Amazing Race fandom.
Exactly. It was great though. I was like really excited.
Did you try to get royalties off of, or be like, hey, pay up if you want to keep those pictures of me?
No, I did not.
I have a microphone I have to pay for.
I was excited I got recognized, more excited that I got recognized, to be honest. So we're like, wow, someone recognized me, because it was like, 6 months later. So
So that's not too bad. It's not like now where teams have won cruises in seasons 31 and 32 on the Amazing Race, and they have not yet been able to use them for quite a while now.
Really?
Yeah, because all the cruises have been shut down.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
maybe just now because of COVID, so they've been waiting like probably 3 years or 2 years or so for some of
God.
them.
I thought they
get
were
on
like,
that right away.
I thought they were trying to teach him a lesson and like, you're not getting this, whatever, and like holding it from him. No, okay. There is a thing called COVID.
Yeah. Ken, anything else you want our fans to know? Because people have been dying to hear from you, from Flo, from Zach, and unfortunately they won't be able to hear from Gerard. But
Yeah, I know he's upset.
let's see, we talked about Vietnam. Let's see, Switzerland. Any crazy memories from Switzerland? That was one of the times where you also switched detours. Actually, was during the banking task.
Yeah, you actually didn't see us actually do another detour in Portugal. It was no, was it a detour? It was a fast forward. We came into after whatever delivering something. I can't remember what we did or
Delivering the crates of wine in the trucks.
correct, yeah. And we walked in and we're like, oh my God, we got to do this. Like we just assumed we had to do this. I don't know what possessed us. So we start doing this whole thing and we're doing it for like 20 minutes. And we're like, God, and no one was around. I'm like, well, what do we do? Like, I don't know if this is right. Where's production? And they come up to us, you're an idiot. Like they didn't say that, but they're just like, no, that's for someone for the fast forward. And no one took that fast forward. So we were like, oh God, we have got to start paying attention more.
And they never aired that. That would have been hilarious to see a team do fast forward when they're not even allowed to claim it. I don't think that's ever happened.
Hilarious for you.
Yeah, hilarious. Yeah. I mean, is it funny? Is it at least funny 19 years later after the fact, or is it still? Oh, can't believe we did that.
There was so much other stuff that we couldn't believe. Like that was sort of minimal to us because we weren't on camera. I guess that And I just remember like some guy looking at, I guess the field whatever guy, and he's like, that's something else. You don't have to do that. I'm like, oh,
What
okay,
was the
thanks.
task?
Don't even ask me. It was something about tiles in the Portugal. Yeah, I don't even remember. It's like tiles, and it was like a puzzle or something.
According to Wikipedia, it was a puzzle. I've just looked it up.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and I think it was made of tiles, maybe. I don't know. So I'm like, and Gerard was great with tiles, so he's like, I can't get this. I'm like, get it, we need to get it, and we just stopped and did it.
So that was the original moment of hashtag read your clue.
Absolutely, that was one of them. No, we actually had a few before that too. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. We were having trouble with that, and Gerard's calling now. Hold on. Hello, Gerard. I'm still chatting away. Yes, I'm still on the interview. You want to come? It's going fine. I have to go though, but you want to come in? Can you come in yet? They couldn't get it to work. He said he's sorry, Logan.
That's okay. Give him our best. We say hi.
All right. They say hello. All right. See you later.
We heard Gerard's voice for a second, so technically he did kind of appear. Yeah, it counts.
Yes, I tried to put it to the thing, but then I'm like, he's going to say a cuss word. And I'm like, he doesn't say cuss words, it's me.
Swearing doesn't matter.
It never gets censored on this podcast.
Yay.
With a few exceptions.
Yay. I'm trying to think of another something that happened. I can't remember. No, I guess the best one was about the Gerard finally not doing something. And I'm like, yeah, I'll pick it up. I'll call the cab, ahead of time. And then I get all this attention, like, nope, Mr. Ken. And he's like, I can't believe they spent so much time on the twins not being able to get our cab. So we were just laughing at that. I'm like, yep, everyone thinks I did all this work now behind the scenes.
How fun was it to try and pronounce some of those Swiss places, those places in Switzerland?
I never knew we were mispronouncing anything. We were just so focused, Logan. We were just so focused. And it was like, oh, well, if I said the wrong name or something, it doesn't matter. And I've seen much worse after our season. I mean, people reading these clues and just cracking up. So,
the geography whiz in me cringes a bit when I see Mauritius pronounced as Mauritius. I'm like,
That's something I would say or Gerard would say, to be honest.
Have you done any traveling at all internationally since your season, Ken?
Yes, I've been to Thailand, I've been to London, and I did get to see Potter's Field. and that was something that it was weird. We just lucked out. One of the first clues I think in after getting off the bus was to find Potter's Field, and Potter's Field is something no one knew really what Potter's Field was. I mean, it wasn't. We just happened to get this old time Brit, and he was like, "Potter's Field? Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "We don't ever say that, but I know exactly where it is." It's like, "Okay, good, take us." So he took us to there, and I know a couple people who got stuck a little bit or were late on that one was because their driver didn't know what Potter's Field was. This just happened to be an older man who knew exactly what it was, and yeah. So then looking crazy for a taxi up on the bridge, whatever. So
Awesome. Let's see. I don't know if I have too much else to really ask.
I can tell you something. I have something. Oh yes, I remember. So when this is sort of a big one. I didn't tell anyone for a long time. I wasn't just weren't. I just didn't want to. But when we were in Singapore and we were flying to Vietnam, we had to get a. I know now all the people are going to say, "Oh, he cheated," and blah blah blah. This cabbie took Singapore. It's a huge show in there. We were shocked at the reception of everyone in Singapore about it. They loved this show, and they knew what they knew we were coming, and it was like sort of a big deal. We didn't know that really at the time.
Yeah, I actually met the host of Amazing Race Asia and Amazing Race China, Alan Wu. He lives in Singapore, and when I went to Singapore a couple of years ago, I met up with him at a Starbucks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so just crazy connection there.
Yeah, they really like it. They were big fans of the show. Thankfully, 1 and 2 were good seasons. So when we were in there, we had gotten our visa from production. They said, "Okay, here's your visa to get into Vietnam. You can't lose it, whatever." So we're rushing to get into the airport. I don't remember we were trying to catch this one flight, and we got it. We were the only one to get it, and we rushed right into the airport, and we went about maybe 15 steps, and we were right at the window, and the taxi driver was right outside, and all of a sudden production had I left it in the cab. I left the clue in the cab, the visa, so we weren't able to get in. So I didn't know at the time that I left it. I knew that I left it in the cab, but I didn't know anyone if they found that I didn't even ask. So all of a sudden we're getting on, we're going to Vietnam, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Gerard, I don't have the visa." And he's like, "What?" I said, "I don't have the visa. Did I leave it in the car?" So I freaked out. I immediately was like, "What are we going to do? We're out of the race," And I got sick on that flight. And then we just happened to have one of the best security guards up front. I can remember Rob. He was such a great guy. I can't remember his name. Anyway, I went to him and I said, "Hey, listen, I don't have my visa. I think I left it in the cab." And he goes, "Here it is." And I said, "Oh, thanks." And he said, "Well, what had happened was we've actually been on the call with 3 different lawyers about this." They said, because when you got out of the thing, you were very close enough for that man to run and say, "Hey," we were literally, 15 steps away. So the guy, he said that he thought we were part of production, and that, so he gave it to them. He said, "Oh, give this to those two. Like, you have to give this to them." So when they got it, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, is this going to be a violation?" Yet we could see what was going on because we just at the front desk, and he would have come in if he didn't know that we weren't together so much. So I was like, and he said, "We actually have been in touch with 2 different lawyers, and they cleared it." They said it's absolutely fine because we were a group of 4 people. And they said, "Oh, give this to them." And he said, "Give this to those 2. They left it in the back of the seat." And he knew us. He knew the Amazing Race, so he was like a huge fan. And anyway, so I was like, "Oh my God, we're going to be out. We're going to be out." And they said, "Absolutely not." They said it was very legitimate. They said it was 4 people, and you were a group. And they said, "Give this to Kenny." And they did say that. I mean, not give it to Kenny, give it to the person, whoever left it, Gerard. We were like, oh, so we were so relieved. And so I just never really said too much about that. I was so embarrassed by the whole thing.
Yeah, it's almost good it wasn't mentioned because I think if it happened at the time, people would be like, "Oh, they should have been disqualified."
They cheated, exactly. And we were literally like, it was funny because we get in our thing, and these guys came right behind us, but we still, when they came up to us, the guy was like right at the window watching because, we were 10 feet away from him, and I guess he knew it was a race. So it wasn't one of these things that he's like, "Oh, we thought you were a group of 4, and oh, you left this." He didn't even know what it was. He didn't look at it. He's like, "Oh, you left this." He said, "Oh, give that to them." He goes, "Oh, I don't know if he said I will or not, but he didn't. He gave it. He went made a big deal out of it and went to production and talked to some lawyer in New York or LA or something at the time, and we were just like, he said, no, you're absolutely cleared because you were a group, and he said, give it to him. So
Well, that is quite some behind the scenes story there.
yes,
I don't think anyone really knew about that.
I didn't really tell anyone because he even sort of said you might not want to tell anybody because they're going to make a big deal out of it. He goes, but it was completely legit, and he said so. We're absolutely fine with it. We cleared it with two of the lawyers, and they all said the exact same thing. No way.
If it's all unfair, if a group of lawyers think it's fair, then I guess it's a-okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And we were a group of four people in there, so it was like, oh, give this to the other guy because we were only allowed to be 20 feet away from our cameraman and soundman at all times. So we were like within 20 feet of them, and they started to run with us, and just oh, okay, here, like they gave it to him, and then I guess on the way in the airport while we were waiting, they just made a whole bunch of phone calls. So we were like, oh God, so we lucked out.
No social distancing there.
None.
Okay. Ken, anything else you'd like to say?
No, just thank you very much. Thanks for us getting back together with Flo and Zach. And Gerard is really upset that he didn't make it. He's texting me like crazy. Let me in, let me in. So anyway, we did have a great time, and it really was sort of it was a life-changing experience as far as just going out of your comfort zone. And I was completely out of my comfort zone, running a race and doing athletic things. And Gerard was completely out of his zone. He's never been on camera. He's never, he's just a smart guy with his head. He's very good with all that stuff. He was a great navigator. So I was, he didn't know how to drive stick, and he insisted one time, and I'm like, no, why would you do that? I didn't know how to drive stick. I took my license to got my license with a stick. So anyway, he had to drive, and then of course he stalled out like 3 times, like, all right, just take it. So he's pretty pissed. But anyway, Jerome was just a great navigator, and it was really just it got us much closer than we've ever been, and still bonded now. And he's just a great guy.
You're arguably the strongest team on that whole season. One of the strongest teams ever.
Thank you.
So, thank you to Ken, Flo, and Zach for joining us for this very special episode. Logan and I will be back in the new year for more podcasts, beginning with Vias to Mall 2022 on the 5th of January. Don't forget you can contact us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us and contact us at rtvwarriors.com. Logan's on Twitter at Logsupkwaki, and I'm MJ Harmstone. See you very soon.